Hello and welcome everyone back to the Geek Tech Show, and in today's video we're going to be talking about distracted driving, how dangerous it actually is and why you should actually not ever do it. So we had actually the past few days two huge YouTubers, McGregor and Lance Stewart. Both of them got in a vehicle and McGregor was driving super quick and he flipped the car over, and thankfully both of them are not in a serious condition. Lance escaped almost with zero injuries, and McGregor got some minor injuries, but it could have been a tragic situation over here. And as somebody who used to be in firefighting a long time ago, I want to give you some helpful tips of this, and second of all, talking about the dangers of distracted driving. So it takes only a few seconds for you to put your eyes off the road and something can tragically happen to you. This is why you should always watch when you're driving, because your vehicle can take up to 2 football fields of, this is like a huge amount of distance that it actually takes for 3 or 4 seconds that you're not paying attention to the road. That is a huge distance, and what happened with them is that as they were driving, he reached down over there to the turbo button, which doesn't actually exist, but he was trying to fake as if it did, and in the other hand he was actually vlogging with the camera. So he was actually putting both his hands off the road. So this is when the actually accident happened here. So one hand he was actually holding to tape himself, and if you are gonna tape yourself, just secure your camera to something instead, or get someone else to tape you. This is super dangerous for you to actually go ahead and hold something in your hand as you're driving. So he was holding something in his hand and his other hand went down, so that means 2 hands were off the road and he was pretending to press on something, but he was looking down, so he wasn't even watching what he was actually doing. And Lance saw something happening and he warned him about it, and it was too late. He got too scared, he flipped, he over maneuvered, and the vehicle flipped over, and this was only at 70 miles an hour. If it was much faster, and of course if they hit something, they could have totally got killed or something. Well, that is the worst thing that can happen. Now, in case you ever get into any kind of an accident as a retired firefighter, I do suggest for you to have at least some kind of a tool to break the windows, and they had a huge hard time getting out. So a sharp tool, that's all you need, and on the sideways of your window, on each and every one of the sides, there is actually a weak spot, and if you hit it with a pointing, and this is actually just a pen that's actually doubles up as a self-defense mechanism over here, and you can get one of those easily. But it doesn't matter what kind of tool you'll be using, as long as it has a metal thing, a strike tool. You hit it on the sides of the windows, like all the way in the corners, 4 different corners. You hit it very hard, the whole window shatters into many broken pieces. It's actually specifically made for firefighters, so they can break windows. Then you kick the window out, just in case you have to run out. So definitely you should get a tool such as this, or any other tool that you want to get from Amazon that breaks windows. It will actually save your life in case you want to and have to get out of the car as fast as you can before the car actually catches on fire. Hello everyone, and I want to talk about McGregor and Lance Stewart. And of course everybody was asking this big question: was the actual accident actually staged? And did McGregor actually stage it out just to get more YouTube views? Because a lot of his content is actually staged, and when something real actually happens, it's very hard for people to figure this out. So as somebody who actually used to be in the firefighting, I'm going to give you a few things about this video and why I think the whole accident, whatever happened over there, was not actually staged. It actually is real. It looks really real. So let's go and start what actually happened here. So they were both driving, Lance and McGregor. McGregor was actually on the wheel, and of course he was doing vlogging, which you should never do, and with his other hand he was reaching out into the turbo boost, which is he was trying to actually impress Lance Stewart to show him this really bad vehicle, which was not even much of a car, had a new engine in it that has a turbo boost nitrogen in there. It's gonna go super fast. Of course, Lance Stewart always drives fast vehicles, and let's go give like Mick Jagger a little bit of credit over here. It's not his fault that Lance Stewart's always like showed him off how fast his vehicle is. So he's just trying to get back at him. It's like a teenage thing to do. They're both like around 20s age, and people do stupid stuff over there. But one thing I want to tell you, that some stupid stuff such as this can actually cost your life. So you have to be super careful when you're driving and doing things like that. Plus, it is illegal. So first of all, let's talk about, was the accident actually staged? And before we even go into that, was the vehicle actually stolen? So he claims that he stole the vehicle from his dad. Well, you don't really steal a car from your dad unless your dad files and calls the police and tells them, my son actually stole the car and I would like to press charges. If nobody presses charges on a vehicle, especially if it happens in your family, then there is no criminal intent over here. There is nothing criminal about it. I mean, your kids can borrow your vehicle as long as they're driving age and as long as they're on the insurance of the car, which I actually suspect that Mick Jagger was. So the whole issue here was that he took the car, probably borrowed it without asking his dad. Most likely he probably did ask his dad, but one thing is, even if he did, he definitely didn't get the permission to crash the vehicle. Did he crash on purpose? Definitely not. He was driving distracted driving, and as he was reaching out for it, he accidentally flipped the car. So we have the conspiracy theories over here. Why was he vlogging? And why was he capturing this if something was not going to happen? Well, he just wanted to show footage with Lance Stewart. So that's why he was actually doing it. And the only way for him to do it was to hold the camera while he was driving, which was totally stupid. You should never do this. And the same thing about Lance Stewart is that Lance Stewart should have actually said that. He went in there, he knew the guy was going to do something like drive very fast. He also knew that he was vlogging. So both of those things he should have said no to, and he didn't. So it was actually kind of his fault as he got into this vehicle because of that. Now, on the other hand, he probably didn't know he was going to flip the car over, and Mick Jagger didn't know about this either. He didn't know this is going to happen. It was total accident. But some people think he staged it. So how would you actually stage something like this? Well, you could do a lot of things on the internet, but there is a few problems here why this thing was not staged. First of all, there was police and EMS that came over there. So to call the police for something that's staged, you can't actually do that. That's totally illegal. That's what will get you actually in jail. So that is first off, did not happen. Now those YouTubers out there who would actually pay people, such as they could pay EMS to come and show up. Yeah, they could call and get actors to do that. You can call and get some actors who are gonna rent out an EMS vehicle, and you could call and get people who will drive a police car and come with a police uniform, and those things are very likely to happen in Los Angeles, not where they were filming, which is New Jersey. So you have to have filming permits to actually do this. You have to have people who are gonna drive and dress like cops and stuff like that. And they had the state troopers over there, which is, to fake that, you gotta have some high-end, super high-end budget, which I totally doubt Mick Jagger or Lance Stewart would even go into all the way to going ahead and buying that stuff in. So there was no reason for them to do that. Why would you do this? I mean, they already have millions of followers, they already get a lot of views as is. There was no need for them to do something like this. So it definitely is an accident. Now, some people say that, oh, the car flipped once, it landed on the roof, which means that the car didn't crash. Well, the vehicle didn't get crushed because it landed on the roof. So definitely somebody just posted it, just put it, flipped it backwards and something like that. Well, let's put it this way. This is the 1960s vehicle. They used to make them out of heavy steel, which actually means that even if the vehicle flipped over, it's very unlikely it's going to crush the roof. Second of all, the other reason why it's unlikely that it's going to crash the roof is that it fell on the grass. And the grass is soft. So that's going to cushion it up as well. Now, another thing is we don't know how many times it flipped over. Most likely the vehicle, as he was just swarming, there was a ditch. Most likely he just flipped over once. That's all that probably happened. If it flipped a few times, there would be more damage to the vehicle. Most likely it just flipped once. Therefore, the damage is totally minimum and you can't really see that much of a damage. Now, we're talking about another thing here. The retired firefighter that he called. Why didn't he call the police? The guy is in shock. He fell, hurt his head, most likely got a concussion. He wasn't really thinking straight and he was like, oh, my dad is gonna, kill me because of what actually happened right there. The car rolled over, I'm in big trouble and stuff like that. So because of this, he didn't want his dad to know about, but definitely his dad is gonna know about. The car is already flipped over backwards. But the whole issue here is that he calls who is his friend, who is a firefighter. Now, I used to be a firefighter for a little bit too. Now, he comes in though, in a bit of, he has some uniform on, and the thing is that as a firefighter, you can wear your uniform anywhere you actually want. There is no rules that says you can't wear it. Every state and county has its own jurisdiction and rules, but most likely you're not going to get in trouble for wearing it. Now, even if you're off duty, but now he is no longer off duty. Once there is an accident out there, he is on duty. So even if he is retired and no longer a firefighter, well, makes no difference. I mean, if you still have the gear, you can still do that stuff. I mean, nobody stops you as a good Samaritan, and especially those are your buddies to help you out. Now, he was breaking the windows wrong. Some people are like, oh, he's a retired firefighter, he's breaking the windows right in the middle, you're supposed to hit it on the side. Well, you are if you have a special pen to break it. He was using a big, large mechanism, and one thing that he was actually very clear, he told them to actually stay off the grass and move away the grass itself and move away from it as he was breaking the windows. So he did that correctly actually. And one thing is a little bit more confusing here. Did he have to break the glass? I'm not too sure about that. He could have just tried to open the door first. Maybe he did. Maybe I didn't really see that. But then he found that probably maybe the door would not open. It fell backwards. It probably crushed the frame, so they couldn't get out. That's one of the reasons why they had trouble over there. So definitely this is not actually staged. People who think it is staged are just trying to gather views. I'm just gonna tell you the truth here. And here's another interesting thing. Stewart didn't even make a big deal out of this in his videos. So people are thinking, oh, he didn't make a big deal. It's probably was staged to get views. The reason why he didn't make a big deal out of this, first of all, he was probably shocked. He wasn't expecting this to happen. Second of all, he was very happy. He escaped with like minimum, almost no injuries. He just hurt his neck a little bit, but he's super powerful, super strong, and I think he's gonna heal very well. It was actually McGregor who got really hurt here. But the biggest thing here is that why didn't he put any more content about this? It is very simple. He had no camera. He wasn't filming the whole thing. Everything that was filmed over there was coming from McGregor. He had the camera, and he's not going to get the content from McGregor because obviously those two are never going to be friends ever again after what actually happened over here. Stewart is probably never going to forgive that guy for what actually happened. He thinks he was doing something very stupid. He knows it wasn't on purpose done, that he actually crashed the vehicle, but at the same exact time, it was just what he was doing was asking for something bad to happen. And he could have accidentally killed him. And a second thing about this is that he's probably making the right decision not to hang out with McGregor anymore because the guy is definitely trouble to do something like this. And of course we don't know when he's gonna try to attempt another stunt, because as you can see in all his videos, he does do things that are a bit really dangerous sometimes, and he doesn't think about the consequences. Well, maybe after this he's gonna think twice about doing anything like this. And lastly, the big question is, well, he had the blood over there. Is the blood fake? Actually, there's one more question about the thumbnail, but the blood is definitely not fake. I mean, they fell backwards and there was glass. It's very likely that he hit his head on something. I mean, we are not sure what exactly happened. It wasn't big gush of blood over there. And he also hurt his arm, which is very understandable, because somebody is going to get injured and he was at the wheel. So it's very likely that he hit himself into the wheel, and there was probably no airbags in this vehicle because this vehicle is super old. And this is another thing about this, that they should be super thankful they're alive, because the vehicle doesn't even have any of the modern safety that most vehicles actually have, including airbags. The only thing that saved them was the seat belt. It was great that they were wearing a seat belt for this. Now, people were also asking about, was it illegal distracted driving? How come the guy drove away from the scene of an accident? Wouldn't he get in trouble for that? Distracted driving, he actually committed a crime by filming himself going over 70 miles an hour. He could definitely get ticketed for that. He could also get ticketed for leaving the scene of an accident, but I'm not too sure about that specific part, because there was no accident to anyone out there. It was just his vehicle that he flipped over. He didn't hit anybody else. So this is a little bit a gray area over there, but still, he left the scene of an accident. But we don't know if he actually left the scene of an accident really. He could have just came back after like right away. And maybe he had an excuse about, I mean, he did get injured. Maybe they just took him to the local hospital, and that does make sense. You're not gonna just sit there and wait. If you're injured, you do need to go somewhere. And Lance Stewart was left over there, so somebody was left over there, so it wasn't really he left the scene of the accident. That's a little bit sketchy over here in terms of that. So he probably is gonna get a good lawyer, and he has the money to get off whatever charges he might actually get from this, which probably are pretty minor, since they didn't actually hit anyone else, which is good, and there was no damage to any other vehicle. And the property that they actually just fell into, it's unlikely the owner will press any charges, because he just fell on a bunch of grass. He didn't really do anything over there. So that's also. And lastly, people are asking about the thumbnail. So the thumbnail itself, there was a thumbnail over there, and it shows Mick Jagger getting out of the vehicle. Was that actually staged? Who was filming it? Well, who was filming it? Probably the other dude who was right there with the camera as he came in, the firefighter. I mean, his friend who is a firefighter, he probably took a picture as he was getting out, or he could have just, Mick Jagger might have actually went back to the vehicle and asked him to just take a picture. And it looks like there was an ambulance right on the side of it, which actually shows that this happened a little bit, either a little bit later or the ambulance came after. So I'm not sure, maybe he came back to get that picture taken. That's also a possibility. It could also be that the ambulance was photoshopped into the side of it. So those are a few things that could have actually happened over here. But overall, I hope you really did enjoy this analysis. If you want to watch any more videos, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and see you on the inside. There's going to be a link right down below to subscribe to it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in another video of the Geek Tech Show.